You know, you mentioned Scott Bessent here. I think he's a pivotal figure here. But tell us about the rivalry between him and Peter Navarro, who is one of the senior trade guys in the White House as well. He is one of the big tariff hawks. We've heard his name a lot down here in Australia. It sounds like there's a lot of internal tension. Is the Bessent side now winning the fight? And does that mean that the rest of the world that's not China is going to start to get better deals when it comes to these tariffs?
Well, there's going to be deals. If you want to get into the little bit of the internecine war here, it's not just Peter Navarro; it's the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who does not get along with Bessent. They may get along now, but they were rivals for the job of Treasury Secretary, as you recall. Howard Lutnick tried to become Treasury Secretary, and there was initially a lot of bad blood between he and Bessent, and as he was trying to, Bessent's people and Bessent himself believed he was trying to dislodge him as Treasury Secretary. Then you had the trade issue come about. Now, yes, Peter Navarro is a hawk on trade, but he was joined in that hawkishness by Howard Lutnick. So it pitted those two guys versus Bessent, and Bessent was kind of like not in the room at the time until the what started hitting the fan. With markets selling off, and particularly that nasty bond market rout on Tuesday night. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. It was literally at night, within about 5 or 6 hours, where bonds started to implode. I mean, prices go down, yields shooting up. That's the interest rates. It just freaked out the financial system. The sort of short-term markets where people lend each other, financial places started to seize up. I mean, it was getting really, really bad. And I think that's when, listen, I'm not saying that Donald Trump doesn't understand the bond market, but I think if I know Bessent, he boiled it down to this to him. If bond markets freeze up, you're going to have worse economic problems than a couple of thousand points decline in the Dow. And by the way, if the 10-year bond starts hitting 5%, you're going to have 10% declines in the Dow and the NASDAQ every day. It's just because you'll just have a general, some people will buy bonds because of that. It's a safe investment with a 5% return, so to speak. They won't buy stocks, but it's just going to show that globally that there's massive instability in the U.S. financial system. And by the way, the U.S. government has to pay debt. You don't want to be paying 5 and 7%, debt interest on these bonds. That's a lot of money. Debt service already eats up a huge part of our budget. So remember, this is a matrix, and that bond matrix all of a sudden on Tuesday night figured into the equation on trade.
So that explains what happened there. And now I want to know what's going to happen next, because this tit for tat between China is clearly going to escalate here. What you've reported just recently, the SEC might delist Chinese companies from U.S. stock exchanges. Now, if that happens, this seems like there's going to be a major escalation to this conflict between Washington and Beijing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a Trump-admitted. We should point out that Donald Trump likes to do deals. And, there may be a deal at hand here where he holds off delisting the companies. He wants TikTok U.S. to be a U.S. company. He wants the ports around the Panama Canal to be bought by a U.S. company from a Chinese company. This is, he wants these things. So there's room to negotiate here. But clearly there's a lot at play here. We should point out that the delisting issue is not just a Trump administration issue. There are people in Congress that want this done. The Florida Senator, Rick Scott, is pushing this big time. There's a U.S. law in the books that says that these Chinese companies have to be completely transparent with U.S. regulators. There is these are Chinese companies that list on exchanges. I mean, they're huge companies. It's like Alibaba is one of those. Right? I'm not saying that Alibaba is doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that's one of them.
Sure.
Rick Scott and others believe that they don't do proper disclosure. There's an issue whether the Chinese government has shares in these companies. It's called golden shares, and these shares are not disclosed allegedly, and they are controlling shares. It's how the Chinese government essentially controls these companies in a way that's not disclosed. And so there's a lot going on here with China. Again, there's an art of the deal, so to speak, back then that could be had because Donald Trump wants stuff out of the Chinese. He also wants access to their markets. So there could be a play here, but clearly the trade war is raging as we speak right now.
Charles Gasparino, thanks so much for breaking this down for us. We'll have you back again. Love hearing you talk about this stuff. It's great insights. Thank you so much.